This chapter tells us how a small trading company established its power in India. The British originally came as a small trading company. Initially, they were reluctant to acquire territories. How then did they come to be masters of a vast empire? In this chapter, you will see how their trade expanded, how new rules for business were implemented, and how East India Company came into power in India. The last powerful Mughal ruler was Aurangzeb, and after his death in 1707, many Mughal governors or subadars and big zamindars began asserting their authority and establishing regional kingdoms. By the second half of the 18th century, a new power emerged on the political horizon. It was the British. Ultimately, they became the masters of the vast territory. This did not happen overnight. It took a long time. East India Company began trade in Bengal. The first English factory was set up on the banks of the river Hooghly in 1651. Soon, the trade expanded and the East India Company persuaded merchants and traders to come and settle near the factory. It worked as a warehouse and base for the workers of the company. The workers were known as factors. In the warehouse of the factory, goods for export were stored. The company by 1696 built a fort around the settlement. These European trading companies acquired concessions and privileges from our rulers. The East India Company continuously tried to press for more concessions and manipulate existing privileges from the local Indian rulers. It also bribed Mughal officials into giving the company zamindari rights over 3 villages. One of these was Kalikata. Later it became the city of Calcutta and now it is called Kolkata. It also persuaded the Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb to issue a farman, that means granting the company the right to carry on duty-free trade. The officials of the company who were carrying on private trade were expected to pay duty to the local rulers. But they refused to pay, which angered the Nawab of Bengal, Murshid Quli Khan. This led to fierce battles. After the death of Aurangzeb, the Bengal Nawabs Murshid Quli Khan, Alivardi Khan and Siraj ud-Dawla, one after another refused to grant concessions to the company. In such a situation, the company began to think about replacing Siraj ud-Dawla with a puppet ruler who would willingly give trade concessions and other privileges. They began helping one of Siraj ud-Dawla's rivals become the Nawab of Bengal. Siraj ud-Dawla got infuriated. This finally led to the Battle of Plassey, in which Siraj ud-Dawla got defeated. The conflict between the company and the Nawabs of Bengal intensified. The Bengal Nawabs refused to grant the company concessions, demanded large tributes for the company's right to trade, denied it any right to mint coins, and stopped it from extending its fortifications. They also claimed that the company was depriving the Bengal government of huge amounts of revenue and undermining the authority of the Nawab. The conflicts led to confrontations and finally culminated in the famous Battle of Plassey. The Battle of Plassey in 1756, Alivardi Khan died and Siraj ud-Dawla became the Nawab of Bengal. The company tried to help one of Siraj ud-Dawla's rivals to become the Nawab. After Siraj ud-Dawla came to know about the company's strategy, he asked them to stop meddling in their political affairs, stop fortification and pay the revenues. In 1757, Robert Clive led the company's army against Siraj ud-Dawla at Plassey and defeated him. The main reason for the defeat was that the forces led by Mir Jafar, who never fought the battle. Thus, The Battle of Plassey became famous because it was the first major victory the company won in India. It was a historic landmark for the British Army. The prime objective of the company was the expansion of trade. If it can be done without conquest through the help of local rulers, then territories need not be taken over directly. But very soon, the company discovered that this was rather difficult. After the Battle of Plassey, the company officials forced the actual Nawabs of Bengal to give land and vast sums of money as personal gifts. When Robert Clive left India, his Indian fortune was worth 4,01,102 pounds. In 1764, he was appointed as the governor of Bengal and was asked to remove corruption in company administration. Many company officials died an early death in India due to disease and war. Some of the officials came from humble backgrounds and their desire was to earn enough in India, return to Britain and lead a comfortable life there. Those who managed to return with wealth were called Nabobs. It was an anglicized version of the Indian word Nawab. The Battle of Buxar. After the defeat at Plassey, Siraj Dowlah was assassinated and Mir Jafar, who had deceived Siraj Dowlah, was made the new Nawab of Bengal. He gave huge amounts of revenue to East India Company and its officials. East India Company felt it as the best way of earning profits and started exchanging with Nawabs regularly. But Mir Jafar could not prove himself a puppet ruler for a long time. Hence, the company deposed him and installed Mir Qasim in his place. When Mir Qasim complained, he was defeated in the Battle of Buxar in 1764, driven out of Bengal, and Mir Jafar was reinstalled. He died the next year, that is in 1765. In the same year, the Mughal emperor appointed the company as the Diwan of the provinces of Bengal. The company now began to exploit the vast revenue resources of Bengal. This solved a major problem that the company had earlier faced. From the early 18th century, its trade with India had expanded, but it had to buy most of the goods in India with gold and silver imported from Britain. This was because at this time Britain had no goods to sell in India. The outflow of gold from Britain slowed after the Battle of Plassey and entirely stopped after the assumption of Diwani. Now revenues from India could finance company expenses. These revenues could be used to purchase cotton and silk textiles in India, maintain company troops, and meet the cost of building the company fort and offices at Calcutta.